You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am host Jeff Waldorf, and this is Logically Left. We're currently watching Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. We're on all the major platforms, not Kick or anything like that, but the major ones, the good ones, well, the better ones. I wouldn't say that some of the things that YouTube's been doing lately is good. And so here is your reminder to make sure that, if you have kids and you're watching like kid-like content, that there is AI that might kick you into restricted mode, which would make it harder for you to access political content. So until you turn it off. So this is AI, this is automatic, this is going through and kicking people down to restricted mode so that videos like mine, that are not meant for little kids, yes, I know, don't make it into your feed, so you have to go and manually set it up. But anyway, that is one of the things that YouTube is doing, and of course the tech industry writ large that has doubled down, tripled down, whatever, on more so-called AI, which really isn't intelligent at all. It's just stealing content and training itself on it because the investors have thrown a shit ton of money at it. That is the reality of our AI system, and lends some credibility to the dead internet theory, where pretty much most people have decided to F off from the internet because it is garbage, and now bots have taken their place. I'm just saying. It is possible. It is very possible. But anyway, look, we got a lot of very important stories here today. We're going to talk about, including Donald Trump, apparently not familiar with political violence against the left, which has been happening at an increasing pace. And so I'm going to give you his response when asked about recently assassinated Democrat Melissa Hortman and her husband that were killed just a couple of months ago. Who? He said? Is it somebody that got me my coffee or what? I don't know. I don't understand who this person is. Okay, I don't know. I've never heard of it. Well, I mean, that not only is a lie, it could be an example of dementia. I don't know. But anyway, we've got that. We've got Trump getting slammed with a community note for just pulling numbers out of his behind on drugs to justify a unilateral strike a deadly strike against, I don't know, like people in Venezuelan people in a boat. I don't know. Could they be fishermen? We don't know. It goes back to the story where we're talking about SEAL Team, the SEAL Team 6, I believe, that being sent into North Korea to plant a listening device and running into fishermen and then murdering said fishermen. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to be killing innocent people. Then we have a possible lynching victim. 2 possible lynching victims in Mississippi. 2 black men being found dead hanging from trees. I mean, that is incredibly frightening, super scary, and we don't know the details on that, but I'm still going to talk about it because I think that if this happens to be a lynching or a pair of them, oh boy, that is not good. That is very, very not good. Then we have the shutdown threats. Yes, another possible government shutdown. This time, though, the Democrats might be possibly standing up and saying, we will shut down the government, using the Republicans' own tactics against them in order to try to not hurt people, but to try to keep insurance from going up. Huh. Interesting. And then an update on the Luigi Mangione trial. That's right. And how a judge actually just handed Mangione's attorneys a fairly big win. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. So those are the stories I'm going to talk about today on the show. Please, if you haven't already, like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps get the word out, all that wonderful stuff. And again, if you want to support independent progressive media, look, I'm not going to lie, things are terrible not just in America, right? But also in independent progressive media. We are just getting absolutely hammered by censorship and, demonetization and all these different things. And restricted mode, as I already mentioned earlier. Basically, we need your support. Okay, I need your support. Sign up, become a patron, make it so that we can continue to do the show without having to worry about advertisers, etc. And all that. And of course, I do not get money from Chorus or any dark money groups or George Soros or anything like that, or any nonprofits. No money from there. Okay, I've never even been approached by any of those groups or people, and so we don't get any funding from them. In fact, independent progressive media is just that. It's independent and is not funded by big donors. And so how are we funded? Barely. Okay, barely. Barely making it by, and mostly because of you. Okay, and the of course ads on YouTube. All right. So look, need more people to sign up. Okay, this is very, very important. Sign up to become a patron. Patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. That is a surefire way to make sure that the most amount of money, bang for your buck, goes to supporting the creators that you care about. Not, YouTube membership is good as well, but a portion of that does go to YouTube, whereas Patreon, a bigger cut goes to us. So we get more of that through our Patreon page. And that is one really big, important, surefire way to help continue the existence of independent progressive media in this show. Need your help. Need you to fund progressive media. Because, if the people do not stand up behind progressive media, either it goes away or it gets co-opted. And I don't want to do either of those things. I would rather disappear than be co-opted and bought by a big company or a donor. So I'm just making it 100% clear. If I disappear one day, it is because I chose not to sell out. That is nothing that I am interested in doing. So, important, fund, progressive, independent media to keep it independent and make sure that it is answerable only to y'all. All right. So anyway, with that said, let's do it. Let's jump into the stories. Oh boy. A visibly confused Donald Trump had absolutely no idea who slain Minnesota Democratic State Representative Melissa Hortman was when he was asked by a reporter as to why he did not order the flags lowered to half-mast after her assassination back in June by a Trump supporter. Now, the context there is pretty important because Trump had ordered all the flags to be flown half-mast for after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, who is not is a public figure, but not a public servant, not a member of Congress or the government, but a conservative podcaster. So now I'm going to show you the video here of him being like, in a second. So let's do that, and then we'll discuss.
Do you think it would have been fitting to lower the flags to half-staff when Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota House Speaker, was gunned down by an assassin as well?
I'm not familiar.
The Minnesota House Speaker, a Democrat, who was assassinated this summer.
Well, if the governor had asked me to do that, I would have done that. But the governor of Minnesota didn't ask me. I wouldn't have thought of that, but I would have if somebody had asked me. People make requests for the lowering of flag, and oftentimes you have to say no because it would be a lot of lowering. The flag would never be up. Had the governor of Minnesota asked me to do that, I would have done that gladly.
Oh, yeah. Who? I'm not familiar with that person. But let me tell you what. If they had asked me, I totally would have done it. Probably, maybe. I mean, we turn a lot of people down, but I maybe could have possibly. I don't know. What? Hold on. So wait, this was a high-profile political murder. Okay, of not only a Democrat but also her husband and their dog. Okay, but you didn't hear about it? You didn't know about it? No, that's a lie. He did know about that. In fact, he had previously called it, terrible, and all that stuff. But then, what's important here is he went on to say that why should I call the governor of Minnesota about this? I could be nice and call, but why waste my time? Why waste time calling the governor of Minnesota? Yes, that is exactly what he said. Okay, that was a quote. I could be nice and call, but why waste time? Governor Tim Walz, I mean, he's kind of a kook anyway. He's kind of a crazy person. So why would I even bother? Yeah. So Trump talked to him. Or Trump, could have talked to him, but he didn't. Okay, he had the chance. But, he didn't. And so Tim Walz never had the chance to ask him to lower the flag. I don't know if he would have anyway, but again, never got that chance to talk to the president. I don't know, man. It kind of seems like there is some selective empathy going on here, which is, again, only for Charlie Kirk, who, yes, is a member of the conservative movement, obviously, and needlessly was killed. And I don't agree with that. I don't like that. I don't like that it happened. That's not a good signal. Not only for it's not good. It's not good for anyone. Okay, not good for anyone. Now, the right wing wants everyone to mourn and lionize Charlie Kirk, and they're aggressively going after anyone who points out some of the controversial things that Charlie Kirk has said. Okay, so if you say, hey, Charlie Kirk said some pretty nasty things in his career as a right wing podcaster, which kind of goes along with the territory, I believe. But you say some controversial things and perhaps some nasty things, and then, you know, if you later on, after this tragedy, okay, which again should have never happened, but if you repeat some of those things and say, hey, this is what he said, right? And I'm just saying, nobody's saying he deserved to get murdered for that, but this is his quote, okay, just to show you that, yeah, he was a person that we did not agree with on pretty much anything. This administration is going to come after you and try to silence you for just pointing that out. Already, an MSNBC contributor has been fired. I believe it was a Washington Post contributor, either Washington Post or New York Times, writer that was fired as well. Again, for just saying fairly benign things. Okay, so just fairly benign things, and just pointing out or quoting Charlie Kirk in context. And so, I mean, there's that. But anyway, they go after those people and want everyone to lionize Charlie Kirk and to mourn him tearfully. And yet, these same people ignore the Democratic victims of political violence. It's like they don't even see political violence against Democrats as a problem, which it is a problem. In fact, political violence overall is a problem. It just happens to be aimed more so at the left than anyone else. Okay, and yet Trump and his cohorts are attempting to pin all 100% of the political violence on the left, the so-called radical left.
And given the killing of Melissa Hortman, the attack on Paul Pelosi, the attack on Gabby Giffords, the attack on the Pennsylvania governor's mansion, why make the case that violence is only on one side? It seems to be taking place.
I didn't say it's on one side, but I say the radical left causes tremendous violence, and they seem to do it in a bigger way. But the radical left really is caused a lot of problems for this country. I really think they hate our country.
I mean, he cannot help himself. He can't help himself. Oh, they cause tremendous violence, and in a much bigger way. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's not reality. Okay. Now Trump isn't the only one, by the way, who parrots this. Vice President J.D. Vance, who literally took over to guest host Charlie Kirk's podcast from his political office. That's really super unethical. Okay, incredibly unethical. Pretty messed up. Here's what he said. I mean, it's not even as messed up as what he actually said there. He said, while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies. Oh, wow, there's an admission, right? It is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics on American politics today are proud members of the far left. Something has gone very wrong with a lunatic fringe, a minority, but a growing and powerful minority on the far left. Okay, gotta call bullshit on that one. Bullshit. All right, seriously, the majority of the political violence, not all, but a majority of the political violence is perpetrated by the far right. Look, domestic extremist related killings on the U.S. between 2013 and 2022 shows that the right-wing extremists are responsible for the majority of extremist-related murder. 75%. Okay, three quarters. All right, while left-wing extremism is 4%. 4%. Then you have Islamic extremism, 20%, and the other extremism, 1%. These are the facts. These are the facts. 3/4 of all the political violence murders in this country are perpetrated by the far right. Okay, the young man who has been accused of killing Charlie Kirk was a member of the extreme far right Groyper America First movement headed up by Nick Fuentes. Remember, these are ultra-nationalist, ultra-conservative people. They had been fighting with Charlie Kirk. They have accused him of being not sufficiently right-wing enough after Charlie Kirk, to his credit, had called for the release of the Epstein files. Okay, now you have to understand that these America First people, okay, the Groyper movement, are further, way further to the right than even Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump, who are, again, in my estimation, in my view, are very right-wing. Nick Fuentes regularly criticized Trump from the right. And so this and many other instances of political violence comes from the extreme far right. And yet the conversation that these people want to have, that the conservatives that are even, the ones that are even being targeted by this political violence, is we want to talk about the radical left instead. Which in America, the radical left is healthcare for everyone, higher wages, labor rights, and yes, using pronouns and respecting trans people's identities. That's really it. There's nothing extreme about the American left, which is centrist compared to the rest of the world. Despite what idiots like Elon Musk say. Okay, they've had their brains rotted by Reddit, okay, or whatever, 4chan. Here's the thing. Right-wing violence has been a growing issue for a very long time. I've been covering this stuff for over 10 years, okay? And just that, within that period of time, and even before, there were instances of growing acceptance of political violence over on the right wing. This was going on during the Obama administration. I remember that. Just a massive increase in political violence over there and violent rhetoric. Now, the Obama administration tried to look into that, but you know what? They ended up stopping because Republicans complained about it. That's right. They complained. They got mad. Back in 2012, there was a report written by a Department of Homeland Security official, which warned about the resurgence of right-wing extremism. That report, titled Right-Wing Extremism, Current Economic and Political Climate Fueling Resurgence and Radicalization and Recruitment, caused outrage among Republicans. That report was met with harsh criticism from people like then House Minority Leader John Boehner, who had accused the agency of not focusing on the real threat, like Islamic terrorism, which, if you go back to that chart, 20%, that's significant, right? I mean, you got Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, ISIS, those groups, all right? Religious, fundamentalist, Islamic extremism, okay? Now, that said, 75% of the political violence is done by the right, the far right, the sovereign citizens, these anti-government, anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ extremists, right? These aren't your normal Republicans. These aren't your normal conservatives that are like, I don't know, I just think there's too much taxes and regulation. Okay, we can have a discussion on that. But the ones that deny people's humanity, deny gay people the existence of trans people, try to deny them rights and their humanity, all that stuff, that is, you can't have a conversation with that, okay? You can't have a conversation where you just don't believe or don't want to believe that certain people deserve human rights, okay? That's the reality. But they knew, the government knew, okay, that the right wing, all the way back then, that the violence is coming from, the majority of it is coming from the right. But because conservatives and Fox News complained, Obama disbanded that group and buried this report. That's it. That failure to commit to investigating and stopping right-wing radical political violence is why we are all in this boat today. And likely why Charlie Kirk's kids no longer have their dad. All right? That's the reality, okay? The cowardice of the Obama administration in firing or reassigning the group of people that were studying and tracking far-right violence is unforgivable. It really is. It really is. Centrism, and it's a great example of how the centrism fails to put a stop to fascism. That's the reality of the situation. We are all suffering as a result of not only that administration, but each successive administration's failure to rein in far-right extremist political violence. And not only that, but to failure to address the material conditions that lead to the kind of radicalization that we have seen in the first place. That overwhelmingly, because of messaging, targets people on the left, but is now also targeting anyone who the extremist far right no longer considers to be sufficiently right-wing enough. That means that there are Republicans, there are conservatives that are also being targeted. Charlie Kirk is the latest example of someone who have fallen from right-wing extremist violence, the kind of violence that everyone on the left does not want to happen. We don't want to see this happen. In fact, we warned you that it was going to happen if you don't put a check on them. And yet, those very same people that we are trying to protect from right-wing political violence, or all political violence, not just from the right wing, okay, but all political violence, are the very ones that not only don't want to put a stop on it, but then when it happens, to turn around and blame the left. Because that's exactly what they're doing. It's exactly what they're doing. Look, the monster that these people spent decades creating on the far right is now loose as a result of all of this, and is now terrorizing all of us. And what are we going to do about it? This administration doesn't want to do anything about it, as long as they are allowed to just blame the left for everything. And unfortunately, you have a lot of media outlets that continue to go along with all this stuff, to lend credence to, oh, well, you know, the left is responsible. No, it's not at all. And they're focused a lot on this alleged transgender, you know, whatever, right? Partner, roommate, whatever, based on an anime picture, okay? And they are so, it seems very, very desperate. They're so desperate to try to blame this on leftism, transgenderism, whatever. And they're just ignoring the fact that they have created this monster at their door that is targeting them as well. Okay. Moving on. Is it both sides-erism maxed out? Because I don't consider Barack Obama to be a leftist. He is a centrist corporatist Democrat. So, I mean, is that really a member of the left? Just saying. That's, you know. They also blamed gamers for the shooting because, of course, they did. Yeah. Oh, of course. Of course. You know, because there's a Helldivers meme. Okay, anyway, let's move on here. Let's talk about alternative math. Yay. President Donald Trump was hit with a community note after telling reporters that 300 million people died just last year from drugs. The
president of Venezuela called the strike on the boat illegal. Are you concerned that Maduro might escalate something?
No, what's illegal are the drugs that were on the boat and the drugs that are being sent into our country, and the fact that 300 million people died last year from drugs. That's what's illegal.
So that alternative number, okay, comes after Trump announced that the military on Monday carried out a strike against an alleged Venezuelan narco-terrorist boat. So that's also 2 weeks after the president said the military had struck a first alleged drug-carrying boat in the Caribbean. Here's the thing. These are extrajudicial killings that are based on pretty much nothing. Okay. Do we know if they were carrying drugs? I don't know. Nobody really knows if whether they were drug smugglers or fishermen. It appears to me that they were probably just like, hey, it's a boat. Let's bomb it anyway. We don't know if they're carrying drugs. Just blow it up. Nobody's gonna care. Look, here's the thing, though. If we're going by Trump's numbers on this, then 300 million people just last year dying of drugs would be nearly 90% of the U.S. population. I'm fairly certain that 90% of all Americans did not die due to drugs. Or, well, I'm just certain that they didn't die. Okay? So, obviously, that community note flagged the claim as absolutely impossible. Here's the reality, right? The death toll in the United States per year is 3.3 million. So that is from all causes combined, which, look, the biggest cause here, I believe, is heart disease, okay? And, that doesn't have anything to do with drugs, okay? So, look, globally, 62 million people died in 2024. That's a lot of people, but it's not 300 million. Okay, so Trump's way off. Way off. Wow. Look, here's an interesting fact, though. I just want to bring it up. Okay, we actually have in the United States a lower life expectancy than other wealthy nations. In fact, we rank near the bottom. Research on mortality rates that date back to 2010, including a peer-reviewed study in the National Academy of Sciences, found that among industrialized countries, the U.S. ranks at or near the bottom of life expectancy at birth. Now, that's bad. And 2026, the average American man and woman could expect to live 75 and 80 years, respectively, while the average Western European man and woman could expect to live 77 and 83 years. Okay. Respectively, according to a World Health Organization data published in 2010. I think there are some different reasons for that. Diet, exercise, lack of healthcare in this country. You have racial disparities in healthcare. You've got stress. You've got our work culture. There's plenty of different reasons, right? Plenty of different factors that make it so that, people in Europe tend to live longer than people in the United States. I think it was really interesting to bring that up because we are talking about the mortality rate after all. But as far as drug overdoses are concerned, because that's what this is talking about, right? Drug overdoses account for roughly 100 to 110,000 deaths per year. That's a lot. That is a lot. However, it has been decreasing over the years. According to provisional data from the CDC, the overall number of fatal overdoses have dropped by nearly 27% from 2023 to 2024, reaching the lowest level that we've had in 5 years, which is better. Now, we didn't do that. We didn't achieve that drop by bombing Venezuelan fishermen, okay, alleged drug smugglers. No. How did we achieve that drop? Well, turns out when you increase access to medication like naloxone or Narcan, as well as use evidence-based treatments for addiction, that reduces overdose deaths. But guess what the Trump administration has done to those programs, to that funding? They have gutted them. Ah, yes, that's true. Last month, for example, the Trump administration demanded that Congress cut an additional $26 billion from addiction and overdose services in the federal budget through the appropriations process over the next few months. And it's estimated that Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill alone will cut 156,000 people off from access to medication for opioid use disorder and double the overdose rate among that group. Again, these are people in, for example, middle America, all right, that are, hooked on opioids because of the Sackler family that got away with nothing. No, they got away with everything. They got no punishment whatsoever, scot-free. Doesn't matter that they're not going to prison. Those groups here, those people, I should say, in that industry, in the pharmaceutical industry, just got away with everything. Okay, that's what happens with giant corporations. But anyway, here we have, okay, so many people, the victims, being cut off from these life-saving medications and addiction programs. Okay, 156,000 people. They're going to lose their access to this medication. And around 1,000 additional overdose deaths will now occur, or at least are expected to occur among this group. As of July 16th of this year, the Trump administration and Congress have also slashed about $345 million in federal funding that supports treatment, overdose prevention, and other health services, and about $588 million in drug-related research. So what we're getting here under the Trump administration, under Republican rule, is more extrajudicial murder of fishermen in boats, while also gutting funding for programs that would help cut the number of overdose deaths. The result, obviously, is more death because they are a cult of death. More death among Americans. More death about suspected but not proven drug traffickers. And even so, even if they are drug traffickers, I don't believe that that should be a capital offense. The Trump administration's response to this is exactly the kind of response that does not solve this problem. Drugs and drug deaths are a problem. Smuggling and trafficking are a problem. But you can reduce that problem or even eliminate that problem by getting rid of the demand. Okay? The demand for the drugs. That's what drives smuggling, is people in America want the drugs. And so they're willing to pay for the drugs. And so you have people that are willing to traffic the drugs. Okay? That's it. If you find ways to eliminate the demand for those drugs, along with providing perhaps comprehensive treatment programs proven to work, along with access to life-saving medications like Narcan, naloxone, you save lives. You save lives, and you save money. But this administration does not want to do that. They would rather use bombs to punish people, because that's what they're about. They are about punishing people who use drugs, who fall into despair and get addicted. And they also want to punish the trafficker, the person that brings them the drugs, with lethal force, which again is not going to solve the trafficking. It is actually going to make it more dangerous. And it's going to be counterintuitive, you see, because the more dangerous it gets to traffic the drugs, the more expensive those drugs are going to be. The more people will be willing to pay for them. And therefore, it will be even more lucrative for those who try to brave this, this the U.S. response to try to get those drugs into the United States. That's what's going to happen. Okay, you're going to make it even more attractive for drug smugglers to ply their trade. You're not solving the problem. You're just making the problem even worse. It's counterintuitive, but what do you expect again from this administration that does not care at all about facts? Okay, moving on. It's a disturbing story. Okay. In what is a very disturbing case, the body of a 21-year-old student named Demartravian Trey Reed was found hanging in a tree on the campus of Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi. This happened on Monday. This case is reminiscent of the lynchings of old that would happen in the South. Now, currently, police are saying, don't worry, there's no foul play. It was, he ended his own life. He hung himself from a tree. Oh, but the family, however, is like, don't be so sure. We need a real investigation here to figure out what happened. So now, that said, campus police chief Michelle J. Peeler had told reporters that, hey, look, we're ruling this as a suicide. For right now, there is no official cause of death. Quote, at this time, there's no evidence of foul play. But while there is no evidence of foul play, the body has been retrieved by the Bolivar County Coroner's Office. I have requested the assistance of the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, the Bolivar County Sheriff's Office, and the Cleveland PD to assist us in this ongoing investigation. Okay, so wait, the officials are saying, no, this is not what you think. This was not foul play. Nothing bad happened here. But the family, especially the cousin, is saying, no, you need to do an investigation because we found some things that are very disturbing. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the allegations is that both of his arms and one of his legs were found to be broken. Oh, okay. I mean, to me, if that happens to be the case, and we don't know about that, but if that is true, I'm pretty sure he didn't break his own arms, his leg, and then hung himself. That doesn't seem possible. Okay, but police are like, no broken bones, no, nothing happened. It's just, he just he committed suicide. That was it. So currently there is disagreement on what actually happened, but we do know that a young black man was found hanging dead in a tree. And it just so happens to be a week after the death of Charlie Kirk, which led to a wave of death threats against people who go to historically black colleges and universities. Now, it's important to note that the university that Kirk was killed at was in Utah. It was not an HBCU. Now, the suspected killer of Charlie Kirk is a white kid, a white Mormon, whose father is, I believe, a sheriff or some sort of law enforcement officer, and you have just a lot of conservative. They're conservatives. It's a conservative area, a conservative family, and so knowing all that, why then the threats against black colleges? Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. But, those threats obviously disrupted these universities. They disrupted the learning of these black students. And they were forced to take emergency measures, including canceling classes and even doing lockdowns. So I mean, look, while we don't know, okay, the details of what actually happened to this young man, the parallels here of the days of Jim Crow, I mean, when lynchings were common, especially in that area of the country, I mean, it's pretty concerning. Again, I am not saying that is what happened, but I can't really discount that possibility considering what the political climate here is today. Things have never been more tense. The threat of far-right extremism has never been so looming. The rhetoric, especially around the left, as it pertains to the left, as well as African Americans, has gotten to a very dangerous point. And so, I mean, it is a concern. We don't know what happened, but I have this nagging feeling that this may not have been a suicide. And again, I don't have anything to back that up. I am speculating, and perhaps that is not the right thing to do. But I cannot help shake that feeling. And look, this is the second person that was found hanging in a tree just this week. Warren County Coroner Doug L. Husky recently told on Monday 16 WAPT that another victim, Corey Zukatis, a 36-year-old homeless man, was found in a wooded area around 10:30 a.m. Monday near the Ameristar Casino. Authorities have not released any information regarding that person's death, but again, it is curious. Yet another person found dead hanging in a tree. Yikes. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm really hoping that this is not a new wave of lynchings. But again, I cannot shake that terrible feeling that it might be. I hope I'm wrong. Okay. It is that time of year again where the threats of a government shutdown are once again in the forefront. This time, House Republicans are looking to pass a mostly what they call clean, short-term funding bill called a continuing resolution. Try to keep the government open come October 1st when funding runs out. So Republicans this time want to pass a clean CR, but what about the Democrats? Turns out that they might actually, maybe, possibly attempt to play a little bit of hardball. Wait, what? Hold on. Democrats playing hardball? No, really? What's going on here? Okay, so now the Democrats are trying to push for lawmakers to address the end of the year deadline, which would stave off the expiration of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. So now those tax credits, they're going to expire at the end of the year, and that will drive up the price of healthcare very significantly under the watch of President Donald Trump, which, if healthcare costs skyrocket and the administration is in charge and could have done something, well, wouldn't that be bad for Republicans? Apparently they don't care. Okay. Now, Democrats are also targeting the Medicaid changes included in Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, which cut about $1 trillion out of the program. So now, look, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries posted on social media that he's not interested in passing a clean CR. He wants to, he wants to continue those tax credits. Okay. He said, partisan legislation that continues the unprecedented Republican assault on healthcare is not a clean spending bill. It's a dirty one. Okay. Now, so Republicans, I said mostly clean, but what does that actually mean? Well, it turns out they are adding something into it. More security for themselves. So this is following the murder of Charlie Kirk by an extreme radical right-wing follower of Nick Fuentes and his Groyper army. Republicans, as a result of this, are requesting an additional $58 million to boost security for government officials. House Speaker Mike Johnson said it is kind of a late-breaking development, and that $58 million is for the executive and judicial branches. We have to protect our judges and those who serve in those two branches. Wait a minute, protect them against who? Most of the judges that have been threatened are the ones that have ruled against President Donald Trump. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting, right? But I'm just saying, all right? Anyway, Johnson and lawmakers, he said that lawmakers are also looking at an amount that would be appropriate for a continuing resolution in a short term to protect the members in the legislative branch as well. Okay. And now, as far as any spending outside of protecting their own asses goes, Republicans are not interested in increasing funding to anything or even continuing those tax credits. Shocker, right? But, you know, what actually is the shocker is if the Democrats end up putting up some sort of fight. I mean, here you've got right now Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying stuff like this. Our position remains this. We want to keep the government open by engaging in bipartisan negotiations where we can address some of the grave harm Donald Trump has caused to our healthcare system. He's not, is he forgetting the other Republicans that also voted for this, that voted for the big, beautiful bill? I'm just saying. But anyway, he leaves that out, but, well, kind of. Now, he said, and help, continues, I should say, help Americans with the cost of living. We haven't seen that to date. He added that John Thune, refused to have any conversations about Affordable Care Act subsidies and claimed that the speaker has politicized the funding process by, quote, doing his own CR. Okay. So, he also called it a total partisan proposal. If one side refuses to negotiate, they are the ones causing the shutdown. Now, here's the thing. Republicans are not going to negotiate in good faith. They never really do. Most of them don't care about the subsidies. In fact, I think the plan overall is to have the ACA fail so that they can finally get rid of it. That's what I think. And the removal of these tax credits will make the costs of insurance sky high. Now, it's not like insurance with these tax credits is affordable. No, the costs of insurance have continued to rise anyway. But the shock of losing the tax credits, the subsidies, will put this program, the ACA, into a death spiral. Why? Because less and less healthy people will choose to get insurance, which will leave only the sick, who will face higher and higher prices until they're priced right out. That's it. So I think this has been the plan for some time, and now they're doing it. And of course, we'll blame Democrats if a shutdown happens. If the Democrats decide to actually stand firm on this and actually shut down the government. I mean, I don't think that, I don't think that Democrats will actually do that, but yeah, I guess it's a possibility, perhaps. Here's the thing. In my view, shutdown might not be so bad right now. Okay, considering what the Trump government is actually doing to everyone, to the government at this point. And hey, look, I might have some agreement from the far right on this, though for obviously different reasons. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, she said, quote, "I can't wait to see how voting for the CR becomes a Trump loyalty test. When in all actual reality, it's disloyalty to him by passing a Biden policy-laden omnibus. Instead of passing a Republican appropriations bill with Trump policies and our spending priorities in order to make his policies permanent. By continuing to pass CRs, those that demand it and support it are making Trump a temporary president with temporary policies. Oh, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? A temporary president, right? But look, here's the thing. We've been doing this game, okay, of not funding the government for a very long time, okay? 2013, 2014, okay, all the shutdown stuff. I mean, it's been very, very hard for Congress, very rare for Congress to actually pass a full budget. They never do it on time. They never do it on time. We usually end up getting a lot of short-term continuing resolutions, and then followed by a massive omnibus. Okay? And so, I mean, it has been incredibly dysfunctional, and you can really tie that back to Mitch McConnell, okay, who started doing massive obstruction to any bill that the Obama administration had been trying to pass. And so he's made obstruction the norm, and that has been really one of the major blocks here of getting an actual budget passed. Now, that said, Trump is in favor of this, continuing resolution. So, sorry, Marge. In a True Social post on Monday, Trump put the blame for a potential shutdown on the Democrats, saying Democrats want the government shut down. Republicans want the government to open. Okay. Look, no, here's the thing. Democrats are actually playing the political game of threatening a shutdown in order to get concessions. I think that Republicans will probably end up calling their bluff. I'm just saying. Now, the reason, of course, that the Democrats are actually doing it this time, or threatening this time, is because they don't want healthcare costs to go way up. But it's not just the Democrats, though, that are against this CR. You also have the House Freedom Caucus, but for different reasons, obviously. They said that they're, some of their members see this as a red line, okay, because it kind of increases funding a little bit. Okay. And doesn't do enough, you guessed it, budget cuts. Yeah. Now, asked if he supports the plan that the leadership is looking at, you have one of these House Freedom Caucus members saying, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Oh, you haven't seen it yet. I see. Then what are you doing with your time? I mean, what are you doing? I thought that's your job. I mean, the members of Congress get so much vacation time per year, and then when they come back, they don't actually do anything. So, I mean, that's what it seems like to me. They're just not doing anything. They're going on podcasts or whatever. They're doing CNN and Fox News appearances, okay? That's what our lawmakers are doing right now instead of doing their job, instead of reading things like bills. Look, here's the thing. Either you let the government shut down, okay, which is not going to look good for Republicans, let's be honest with that. And why do I say that? Because oftentimes it is the party that is in charge that will be blamed if the government shuts down. Or the Democrats fold, which is very, very possible, and drop their demand for tax credits for the ACA. And they watch everyone's healthcare costs, health insurance costs skyrocket. Of course, they can then blame that on Republicans. Okay? You could blame congressional Democrats if they surrender, but honestly, we all kind of come to expect Democrats to surrender. But look, overall, here we are. We are in a game of chicken with the Republican Party, and who is nihilistic at its core. Okay? And so whatever happens, and everybody knows this, and they're extremely unpopular, but so are the Democrats, by the way. At the end of the day, I think that most people, when they reflect on whatever happens in the future, are not going to look at Republicans in a very positive light. So, I mean, that's what I see happening. There's no winning here. The government continues and they let the healthcare costs spike, and then they got to explain that to the voters, or they let the government shut down and lose to the Democrats and give them a political win, which they can, I guess, ride to their base, which could have an impact in the midterm elections as well. So, again, I don't really see a whole lot of winning here. But then again, Republicans are pretty good at spinning a loss using their megaphone, their message apparatus, spinning those losses into wins and just convincing themselves that we win everything. We have won completely and the Democrats have lost and it's all their fault when bad things happen. Our government is so dysfunctional right now. It's not even close to being a real functional government. All right, I'm out of time. I'm gonna have to save the Mangione story for tomorrow, because it is interesting. Look, tomorrow I'm gonna be on doing the show on This Space, so it's youtube.com/thisspace.tv. And so check that out. This Space, just doing the normal stream there, and I'll put the videos up on Facebook and YouTube. So check that out. Also, free on our Patreon page. So those of you who don't know, I put the show in audio format on Patreon, no paywall. Anybody can come listen to it, download it, whatever. Okay. At any time. You don't have to pay for it. I just ask that if you do enjoy the show and you want to support independent progressive media, sign up to become a patron, for the cost of a cup of coffee a month. And if enough people do it, then, well, we can continue to keep doing the show. Okay. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. And with that said, I'm outie. We'll see you guys tomorrow, This Space. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. Try to have a good day.